March 15th, 1978. Pan Am Flight 421 descends through gray clouds toward JFK Airport. Stewardess Patricia Morgan moves down the aisle, collecting plastic cups and crumpled napkins. The cabin smells of recycled air and cheap coffee. She reaches row 14. The passenger in 14C holds his passport open, ready for the landing card she's distributing. Patricia glances at the document. Robert Hartman, born Cleveland, 1941. The photo shows a man with soft features, rounded cheeks, gentle eyes. She looks up at the actual face before her. The jaw is wrong, sharper, more angular. The ears sit differently against the skull. Something in the eyes doesn't match, harder, more calculating. Patricia has flown international routes for 12 years. She's memorized thousands of faces, learned to read micro-expressions, spotted fake smiles and nervous sweats. This isn't the same man. Dear viewers, our big goal is to reach 1,000 subscribers on this channel, and with your support, we can achieve it. Only on our channel will you find such interesting and unique stories about the Cold War. Subscribe so you don't miss them. We are sincerely grateful to everyone who helps us achieve this goal. And now let's move on to today's story. The man asks for coffee. His voice is smooth, accent-free American English, but there's a microsecond delay before he says please, as if translating from another language inside his head. Patricia pours the coffee, her hand steady despite the adrenaline now flooding her bloodstream. He thanks her, returns to his Wall Street Journal. Everything about him screams normal business traveler. Pressed suit, leather briefcase, gold wedding band. The wedding band catches light. Patricia realizes he wears it on the right hand. Americans wear wedding rings left. The plane touches down. Passengers gather bags, shuffle toward exits. Patricia watches 14C disappear into the terminal crowd. She should forget it, finish her shift, go home. People lose weight. Age changes, faces, passport photos are always terrible, but 12 years of instinct scream otherwise. Terminal 3. Payphone. Quarter drops into slot. Patricia dials the FBI tip line printed on a card she's carried for years but never used. A voice answers. Patricia describes the passenger, the passport, the wrong face. She gives the flight number, arrival time, physical details she's trained to remember. The voice asks her name. She hesitates, then provides it, hangs up, walks to the crew room with trembling hands. She's just changed everything, though she doesn't know it yet. The man Patricia saw isn't Robert Hartman. His real name is Dmitry Volkov, born Leningrad 1939, recruited by KGB in 1961 when he was 22 years old and fluent in 3 languages. For 16 years, he's lived in suburban Fort Lee, New Jersey. His apartment overlooks the Hudson River. Neighbors know him as quiet, polite, always pays rent early. He works as technical consultant for aerospace companies, carries business cards with embossed lettering. His girlfriend Susan teaches 3rd grade. She knows him as Bob, dependable, occasionally distant, but tender in private moments. They've dated 4 years. She's asked about meeting his family. He tells her his parents died in a car accident when he was 19, that he has no siblings, no cousins, nobody left. The truth is simpler and more terrible. Robert Hartman died in 1941 at 6 months old, whooping cough in a Cleveland hospital. His birth certificate survived. Soviet intelligence, founded in 1961, built an entire identity around those faded records. Dmitry arrived through Canada in 1962. He memorized Hartman's supposed childhood. Streets he never walked, schools he never attended, friends who never existed. KGB trainers drilled him for 2 years. They made him watch American television until he could quote commercials. They taught him baseball statistics, Eisenhower's speeches, the layout of Cleveland neighborhoods. We hope you have already subscribed to our channel, and if not, please do so right now. Our goal is to reach our first 1,000 subscribers. This is very important to us. Only on our channel will you find such interesting and unique stories about the Cold War. Subscribe so you don't miss them, and we'll get back to the story. His mission is technical intelligence. He photographs classified documents, memorizes specifications for radar systems and guidance computers. Every Monday morning, he leaves a chalk mark on a mailbox at 86th and Amsterdam. Every Thursday evening, he retrieves film canisters from a hollowed rock near Bethesda Fountain in Central Park. The routine never varies. Precision keeps him alive. His apartment contains carefully constructed normalcy. Baseball glove from college he never attended, photos of parents he never had, letters from friends who don't exist. Susan has stayed over dozens of times, never suspected the books on his shelf contain hidden cameras that his freezer holds $15,000 in cash beneath frozen dinners. March 15th, he returns from his flight. Susan waits at his apartment with Chinese takeout and wine. She kisses him, asks about Chicago. He describes a business meeting that actually happened with details that are completely true. Lying works best when mixed with truth. They eat, watch television. She falls asleep against his shoulder. Dmitri stares at the ceiling, calculating when to make his next dead drop, which documents he'll photograph tomorrow. He doesn't know Patricia Morgan made a phone call, doesn't know his perfect operation just developed its first crack. March 16th, 1978. FBI Special Agent David Chen sits in his Manhattan office reading Patricia Morgan's tip report. Coffee steams beside stacks of surveillance photographs. He's worked counterintelligence for 8 years, knows 90% of tips lead nowhere. He pulls Robert Hartman's file anyway. Everything checks out. Credit history stretches back to 1962. Tax returns filed on time every year. Employment records show steady progression from junior consultant to senior analyst. Bank statements reveal modest savings, no suspicious transactions. Chen almost closes the case. Then he notices something in the signature comparisons. Before 1962, Hartman signed documents with right slanting cursive, heavy pressure on downstrokes. After 1962, the signature changes. Left slant, lighter touch, different loop formations on the capital H. 2 people signed Robert Hartman's name. Chen requests additional documentation. A 1959 library card application shows the original signature. A 1963 apartment lease shows the new one. The transformation happened during a 2-year gap when Hartman supposedly traveled in Europe. No passport stamps exist for that European travel. Chen assembles a surveillance team. 4 agents, rotating shifts, 3 vehicles. March 20th, they begin following Hartman. He leaves for work at 7:45 each morning. Briefcase in hand, drives a beige Toyota. His office occupies the 14th floor of a commercial building near Newark Airport. April 3rd, Hartman parks on Amsterdam Avenue during lunch break. He walks 2 blocks, stops at a mailbox, pretends to check his watch. His left hand brushes the mailbox corner, leaving a faint chalk mark. The surveillance photographer captures it. Chen examines the image through a magnifying glass. Classic signal mark, exactly as described in KGB training manuals. April 6th, Thursday evening. Hartman enters Central Park at 72nd Street. Agents follow at distance. He walks for 17 minutes, stops to tie his shoe near Bethesda Fountain. When he stands, something is in his pocket that wasn't there before. The agents can't see what without compromising their position, but the pattern is now unmistakable. April 24th, Hartman flies to Chicago. Surveillance team follows to O'Hare, watches him meet with executives at a Boeing supplier facility. He carries documents in his briefcase when he enters. The briefcase looks thicker when he exits. May 2nd. Hartman meets an unidentified man at a coffee shop in Greenwich Village. They sit separately, reading newspapers. After 8 minutes, both leave. Each takes the other's newspaper. Chen photographs the unknown man, sends prints to FBI's Identification Division. Results come back May 4th. The man has diplomatic immunity, works as cultural attaché at Soviet Embassy in Washington. Chen requests search warrant. Federal judge signs it May 10th. But they don't execute immediately. Chen wants the entire network, not just one agent. He needs Hartman to lead them higher, expose his handlers, reveal other operatives. The surveillance continues. Cameras click, audio tape reels spin. Evidence accumulates in locked filing cabinets. Hartman suspects nothing. His routine remains perfect, mechanical, deadly. May 12, 1978. FBI technical team enters Hartman's apartment while he's in Philadelphia on business. They work in silence, wearing thin latex gloves. The lockpicks take 40 seconds. Inside smells of coffee grounds and old newspapers. They photograph everything before touching anything. The placement of furniture, angle of picture frames, exact position of items on the kitchen counter. Hartman will notice if a coffee cup shifts 2 inches left. An agent finds the Minix camera inside a hollowed copy of The Catcher in the Rye on the bookshelf. Another discovers one-time cipher pads taped beneath a desk drawer, the adhesive yellowed from years of contact. The freezer reveals $15,000 in hundreds, wrapped in plastic between packages of frozen peas. But the most damaging evidence hides in his office filing cabinet. Behind legitimate consulting reports sit microdots, tiny photographs smaller than pinheads, containing full technical specifications for military radar systems. The team installs surveillance equipment, microphones in the telephone handset, camera lens behind a drilled hole in the bedroom smoke detector. Every conversation, every movement will now be recorded. They finish in 97 minutes, leave no trace of entry. Chen reviews the evidence that evening, enough to convict Hartman 20 times over. But arresting him now would leave the network intact. His handler would disappear behind diplomatic immunity. Other illegals would receive warnings, vanish into new identities. The surveillance intensifies. May 18th, FBI installs phone taps, opens his mail before delivery, photographs every letter. Technical analysis reveals coded messages hidden in seemingly innocent correspondence. May 29th, Hartman receives a letter postmarked Pittsburgh, signed Aunt Marie. The message discusses Uncle Peter's improving health, mentions Cousin David's graduation. Cryptanalysis breaks the code within hours. A meeting is scheduled for June 12th in Washington, D.C. Specific location to be confirmed by signal. June 3rd, another letter arrives. Looking forward to seeing the Rembrandt exhibit at the National Gallery. The location is set. Chen briefs his team. June 12th will be the culmination of 3-month surveillance. They'll document the meeting, identify the handler, potentially catch the exchange of classified materials. Then they'll arrest both men simultaneously. June 8th, Hartman books a train ticket to Washington. The reservation is for June 12th, departing 10:15 a.m. He reserves a room at the Mayflower Hotel. Everything proceeds exactly as the coded letters indicated. June 11th, Chen's team travels to Washington, establishes surveillance positions around the National Gallery. They have floor plans, exit routes, backup teams stationed at every entrance. 3 agents will pose as tourists inside the gallery. 2 will monitor from vehicles outside. Chen will coordinate from a mobile command post 2 blocks away. The temperature rises to 89 degrees. Humidity makes the air thick, oppressive. Chen's shirt sticks to his back as he reviews final preparations. 16 years of Hartman's operation comes down to tomorrow. 1 meeting, 1 exchange. Then the trap springs shut. That night, Hartman calls Susan from Philadelphia. Audio surveillance captures the conversation. He tells her he'll be traveling for a few days. Promises to bring back her favorite chocolate from a shop near his hotel. His voice sounds tired but affectionate. She says she loves him. There's a pause before he responds. The pause stretches 3 seconds. Then he says it back. The recording captures everything. Later, FBI analysts will debate whether he meant it. June 12, 1978, 2:47 p.m. National Gallery of Art. Marble floors echo with tourist footsteps. Hartman enters through the main entrance, wearing a gray suit and carrying a folded newspaper under his left arm. The recognition signal. 3 FBI agents pose as visitors studying paintings. One examines a Monet water lily series. Another sits sketching a Degas ballerina. The third reads an exhibition catalog near the Dutch Masters section. Hartman moves through galleries with deliberate casualness. He pauses before a Vermeer, studies it for exactly 2 minutes, then continues. The pattern matches KGB counter-surveillance protocol. Check for followers, identify watchers, confirm the route is clean. He reaches the Rembrandt room at 3:08 p.m. 5 paintings hang on cream-colored walls. Track lighting casts soft illumination. 4 other people occupy the space. 2 genuine tourists, 2 FBI agents. Hartman sits on a leather bench facing Rembrandt's self-portrait. The painting shows the artist in old age, eyes tired but penetrating. Hartman stares at it without moving. 3:12 p.m. Another man enters. Tall, late 40s, dark hair, graying at temples. He wears an expensive watch and Italian shoes. FBI agent Miller recognizes him immediately from briefing photographs. Viktor Petrov, Soviet Embassy Cultural Attaché. Known KGB officer operating under diplomatic cover. Petrov walks past Hartman without acknowledgement. He studies different paintings, maintains distance. The choreography is professional, practiced. To casual observers, they're strangers appreciating art. At 3:15 p.m., Petrov sits on the same bench, 3 feet from Hartman. Neither man speaks. Neither looks at the other. Both keep their newspapers folded on their laps. The silence lasts 90 seconds. Then Petrov coughs once, shifts position. Hartman adjusts his newspaper. Their hands move simultaneously. Newspapers exchange positions with practiced smoothness. The transfer takes less than 2 seconds. Both men stand within moments of each other. Petrov exits toward the east building. Hartman walks to the gift shop, purchases postcards, exits through the main entrance. Perfect execution. No verbal contact, no obvious exchange. FBI photographer captures everything from concealed position. The camera shutter clicks continuously, documenting each movement, each gesture, the precise moment the newspapers switch hands. Chen receives radio confirmation at 3:17 p.m. The meeting occurred exactly as predicted. Petrov's newspaper likely contains classified materials Hartman photographed. Hartman's newspaper probably holds instructions for future operations, possibly money. 2 teams follow both men separately. Petrov returns directly to Soviet Embassy. Diplomatic immunity protects him from arrest, but State Department will declare him persona non grata within hours. He'll be expelled from the United States. Hartman takes a taxi to his hotel. Surveillance team follows in 3 vehicles, maintaining loose formation. He enters his room at 3:52 p.m. Audio surveillance captures sounds of running water, television turning on, rustling paper. Chen makes the decision. They have everything needed. Photographic evidence of the meeting, documented pattern of espionage, physical evidence from apartment searches. Waiting longer serves no purpose. The network is compromised. Petrov will be expelled regardless. Time to close the operation. Chen orders arrest teams to prepare. Tomorrow morning, 6:30 a.m., they'll take Hartman at his Fort Lee apartment. Simultaneous arrest warrant will be executed for Petrov, though diplomatic status means only expulsion, not prosecution. The surveillance team maintains watch through the night. Inside his hotel room, Hartman watches television until midnight. The audio feed captures Johnny Carson's monologue, canned laughter, commercial jingles. Then silence. The microphones pick up steady breathing. Deep, regular, peaceful. Dmitry Volkov sleeps his last night as Robert Hartman. June 15, 1978, 6:22 a.m. 8 FBI agents surround the apartment building in Fort Lee. Morning light cuts through humidity. Chen stands beside the entrance, feeling his pulse in his throat. They climb stairs to the 3rd floor. Worn carpet muffles footsteps. Agent Miller positions himself at the fire escape exit. 2 others cover the back stairwell. No escape routes remain. Chen knocks at 6:30 a.m. exactly. 3 sharp raps. Footsteps inside. Chain rattles. Door opens 6 inches. Hartman stands in a bathrobe, coffee cup steaming in his hand. His hair is uncombed, face relaxed from sleep. Then he sees the badges. Something changes in his expression. Not panic, not fear. Something closer to resignation, almost relief. Chen holds up his credentials. Robert Hartman, FBI. You're under arrest for espionage against the United States. Hartman sets his coffee down carefully on the entry table. His hand doesn't shake. He looks at Chen with suddenly clear eyes and says in perfect English with the faintest trace of accent, "That's not my name. My name is Dmitry Alexandrovich Volkov." The admission stuns even Chen. 16 years of cover, destroyed in one sentence. They handcuff him, read Miranda rights. Volkov listens silently, nods understanding. Agents enter the apartment, begin systematic search, even though they've already cataloged everything. Volkov watches them dismantle his constructed life, photographs removed from frames, books pulled from shelves, floorboards examined. An agent opens the freezer. The packages of frozen peas sit exactly where they left them. The money beneath hasn't moved. Volkov speaks only once during the search. "Susan, does she know yet?" Chen shakes his head. "Not yet." Volkov closes his eyes briefly. When he opens them, they're wet. "She knew nothing. I need you to understand that. She's completely innocent." They take him downstairs at 7:15 a.m. Neighbors watch from windows as agents guide him into an unmarked sedan. Mrs. Rodriguez from 3B stands on her balcony in a housecoat, hand over her mouth. She's known Bob Hartman for 8 years, brought him soup when he had the flu. FBI New York field office. Interrogation room smells of disinfectant and stale coffee. Gray walls, metal table, 2 chairs. Recording equipment runs continuously. Chen sits across from Volkov. The interrogation lasts 9 hours with breaks. Volkov admits everything: his real identity, recruitment date, training in Moscow, arrival through Canada, 16 years of operations. He describes his mission parameters, confirms the dead drops, acknowledges the microdots, but he refuses to identify other agents. "I'm a soldier," he says. "Soldiers don't betray their comrades, even when captured." Chen pushes harder, offers reduced sentence for cooperation. Volkov shakes his head. "You're asking me to be traitor. I won't do that." His voice remains steady throughout. He drinks water when offered, uses the bathroom when needed, answers questions with calm precision, professional to the end. Simultaneously, FBI arrests Viktor Petrov at Soviet Embassy. State Department declares him persona non grata. Soviet ambassador protests vehemently, calls it political provocation, demands immediate release. The demand is ignored. Petrov has 48 hours to leave American soil. By evening, news breaks. Television stations interrupt regular programming. FBI arrests Soviet spy in New Jersey. Hartman's photo, the passport photo with the wrong face, appears on screens across America. In a 3rd-grade classroom, Susan Crawford is erasing the chalkboard when the principal enters. His face tells her something terrible has happened. Susan learns the truth at 6:00 p.m. from her television. She's grading spelling tests, red pen moving across misspelled words. The news anchor's voice cuts through her concentration. FBI arrests Soviet spy operating in New Jersey for 16 years. Bob's face fills the screen. Not recent Bob, but the passport photo. Softer, younger, wrong somehow. The caption reads, Dmitry Volkov, a.k.a. Robert Hartman. The red pen falls. Ink bleeds across a child's paper. The reporter continues. Deep cover KGB agent, false identity, stolen classified documents. Girlfriend had no knowledge of activities. The words wash over her like cold water. 4 years. She's dated him for 4 years, considered marrying him, let him into every corner of her life while he was photographing military secrets. Her doorbell rings at 7:30 p.m. 2 FBI agents stand in the hallway, badges already out. They ask if she's Susan Crawford. She nods, unable to speak. They ask to come inside. The interrogation happens in her own living room. They sit on the couch where Bob, where Dmitry, where whoever he was used to fall asleep watching weekend football. The cushions still hold his shape. What did she know about his activities? Nothing. When did she suspect something was wrong? Never. Did he ever ask her to carry packages, deliver messages, meet specific people? No. The questions continue for 3 hours. They're professional, not unkind, but relentless. Every date, every conversation, every moment gets examined for evidence. Susan's memories become crime scenes, each one carefully photographed and catalogued. She remembers how he never wanted pictures taken, how he avoided her friends' parties, how he'd disappear for days on business trips, return with expensive gifts but no details about where he'd been. Red flags she'd explained away because she loved him. The agents clear her by midnight. She's victim, not accomplice. They leave business cards, instructions to call if she remembers anything suspicious. The door closes. Silence fills the apartment. Susan doesn't sleep. She sits on her couch replaying 4 years of lies. Was anything real? Did he love her? Or was she just convenient cover? When he touched her face, was he calculating his next dead drop? When he said her name, was he thinking in Russian? Morning brings reporters. They crowd her building entrance, cameras ready, questions shouted. Miss Crawford, did you know he was a spy? How does it feel to date a KGB agent? Were you recruited too? She calls in sick, closes curtains, unplugs the phone. But parents of her students see the news. By afternoon, 3 families have called the school demanding different teacher. The principal is sympathetic but suggests she take leave until attention fades. Susan's sister drives from Vermont on June 17th, packs Susan's belongings, drives her away from New Jersey. They pass the apartment building where Dmitry Volkov pretended to be Bob Hartman. Susan doesn't look up. In Vermont, she stays in her sister's guest room. Floral wallpaper, white curtains, complete safety. But safety feels hollow. Every sound makes her jump. Every stranger's face might be another lie, another agent, another person who isn't real. She finds a photograph in her wallet. The 2 of them at a beach last summer. Bob's arm around her shoulders, both smiling. She studies his face, searching for clues she missed. The smile reaches his eyes. It looks genuine. That's what breaks her. Not that he lied, but that she can't tell where the lies ended and truth began. She tears the photograph into pieces. Then she cries for the first time since learning his real name. September 11th, 1978. Federal Court, Manhattan. Dmitry Volkov enters the courtroom in orange prison jumpsuit, hands cuffed, flanked by U.S. Marshals. Television cameras fill the back rows. Reporters pack the gallery. This is the biggest espionage trial since the Rosenbergs. Volkov sits at the defense table. His attorney is court-appointed, overworked, facing overwhelming evidence. The prosecution has 47 boxes of classified documents, 3 months of surveillance footage, testimony from 14 witnesses. Patricia Morgan testifies first. She describes noticing the passport discrepancy, the wrong face, the microsecond hesitation before Volkov said, "Please." Defense attorney tries to discredit her. People change, lighting affects perception, memory is unreliable. But she remains certain. That wasn't the man in the photo. FBI agents testify next. Chen describes the investigation, signature analysis, surveillance, the chalk marks, the Central Park dead drops. He presents photographs of the National Gallery meeting, frame by frame showing the newspaper exchange with Viktor Petrov. Technical experts explain the Minix camera, the microdots containing radar specifications. A cryptographer decodes the letters from Aunt Marie, revealing hidden instructions. Each piece of evidence builds an insurmountable case. Day 4, prosecution rests. Defense calls Volkov to testify. He walks to the witness stand calmly, takes the oath. His English is flawless, accent barely detectable. He confirms his real identity. Dmitry Alexandrovich Volkov, born Leningrad, February 3, 1939. His attorney asks him to explain. Volkov straightens, speaks directly to the jury. "I was recruited by Soviet intelligence in 1961. I believed then, as I believe now, that I was serving my country's legitimate security interests. The Cold War threatened nuclear annihilation. Both sides gathered intelligence to prevent miscalculation and catastrophe." He describes his training, 2 years learning to be American, memorizing baseball statistics and television shows, studying photographs of Cleveland streets he'd never walked. The transformation from Dmitri to Robert. "I arrived in 1962 with the identity of Robert Hartman, a child who died in infancy. I'm not proud of using a dead child's name. War requires difficult choices." His voice remains steady. No apology, no regret, only explanation. "I gathered technical intelligence on aerospace systems, information my government needed to assess American capabilities, just as your CIA officers do in Moscow, East Berlin, every Soviet city." The comparison offends the jury. Their faces harden. America doesn't equate CIA operations with Soviet espionage. One is defense, the other is aggression. Volkov continues anyway. "I did what my country asked. I followed orders. I harmed no one physically. I stole no weapons, only information." Prosecution cross-examines. Did he steal classified documents? Yes. Did he violate U.S. law? Obviously. Does he recognize American jurisdiction? He must, given present circumstances. The prosecutor holds up a photograph, the microdot containing radar specifications that could help Soviet forces target American aircraft. "You call this information. American pilots call this their lives." Volkov has no answer. His face remains impassive, but something flickers behind his eyes. Doubt, perhaps, or just exhaustion. Closing arguments consume 2 days. Defense argues Volkov deserves recognition as soldier following orders, that espionage is warfare by other means. Prosecution argues he's a criminal who betrayed a country that hosted him, endangered lives for ideology. The jury deliberates 4 hours and 17 minutes. They return guilty verdicts on all 18 counts. November 2, 1978, sentencing hearing. Judge Whitmore reads from prepared statement. "You lived among us as a lie, stole from us as an enemy, endangered citizens for a foreign power. 40 years federal imprisonment." Volkov shows no reaction, no surprise, no fear. He simply nods. Susan sits in the back row. She watches them lead him away. Their eyes meet for 1 second. She sees something there, regret maybe, or just recognition. Then he's gone. She never sees him again. December 1978. Lewisburg Federal Penitentiary, Pennsylvania. Volkov becomes prisoner 03374-067. His cell measures 8 by 10 feet. Concrete walls painted institutional beige, single window with reinforced glass, metal cot bolted to the floor. Wake-up comes at 6 o'clock a.m. with bells that echo through cell blocks. Breakfast at 6:30, watery oatmeal and coffee that tastes like rust. Exercise yard at 7 o'clock. 40 minutes of cold air and chain-link fences. Then, work detail in the prison library, processing books, filing cards, surrounded by stories of worlds he'll never see again. Other inmates know he's a Soviet spy. Some admire him, standing up to America, serving his beliefs. Others hate him. Communist bastard, traitor to a country that welcomed him. Guards watch constantly, prevent both fraternization and violence. Volkov exists in careful isolation. He reads obsessively. Philosophy, history, mathematics, anything the library holds. Books become his escape, his reminder that minds can travel beyond prison walls. He teaches himself advanced calculus, works through problems on smuggled paper, solves equations nobody will ever see. Letters arrive occasionally from his sister in Moscow. Heavily censored, black lines covering entire paragraphs. She tells him their mother died in 1980, their father in 1982. Both graves he'll never visit. She sends photographs, nieces and nephews he doesn't recognize, a family that continued without him. Hidden in her letters are coded messages. KGB hasn't forgotten him. They promise eventual prisoner exchange, eventual freedom. But months become years. The promises fade. 1985 brings change. Mikhail Gorbachev becomes Soviet leader. News filters into prison through newspapers, television in the common room. Glasnost, perestroika, reform. Volkov watches, wondering if the system he served is transforming into something unrecognizable. April 1986, the prison warden summons Volkov to his office. Unusual, potentially dangerous. Volkov walks through corridors with guards flanking him, expecting violence or bad news. The warden holds a telegram. "You're being exchanged. U.S. government agreed to swap you and 3 other Soviet agents for Nicholas Danilov, an American journalist arrested in Moscow." Volkov processes this information slowly. 8 years in prison, ending suddenly. Return to a country he left 24 years ago, a country currently transforming under Gorbachev's reforms. He asks about Susan. The warden looks uncomfortable. "That's not my jurisdiction. You're going home, Volkov. Be grateful." September 29th, 1986. Volkov boards a U.S. military transport at Andrews Air Force Base. 3 other exchanged Soviet agents sit in separate seats. Strangers united by shared failure. They fly to East Berlin, then Moscow. The journey takes 11 hours. Volkov stares through the window at clouds, then ocean, then European landscape. He's crossing back into Soviet territory after spending more years in America than he spent in adult life in Russia. He left at 23, returns at 47. Half his life was American lie. The plane lands at Sheremetyevo Airport. KGB officers meet them on the tarmac, no ceremony, no celebration. They're debriefed separately, 12 hours of questions about American prisons, contacts with other inmates, potential compromise of other operations. Nobody calls him hero. Nobody trusts him completely. 8 years in enemy custody means possible recruitment, possible turning. He understands their suspicion. He'd suspect himself. They give him a small apartment in a non-prestigious Moscow district, modest pension, formal commendation for service. The commendation is filed away, never publicized. embarrassing to celebrate a captured agent. Volkov unpacks his single bag in the apartment. Soviet-made furniture, thin walls, radiator that clanks. He sits on the bed, feeling nothing. This is freedom. It feels like another prison. October 1986. Moscow greets Volkov with gray skies and cold rain. The city transformed during his 24-year absence. Taller buildings pierce the skyline. Metro lines extend to new districts. Cars crowd streets that were nearly empty in 1962. But the essential character remains. Long queues outside shops with empty shelves. Suspicious glances from neighbors. The weight of surveillance even without visible watchers. This is home, yet Volkov feels more foreign here than he ever did in New Jersey. His sister Irina visits the third day. She's 50 now, hair streaked with gray, face lined by decades of Soviet hardship. She embraces him carefully as if he might break. They sit in his sparse apartment drinking tea from chipped cups. She tells him what he missed. Their mother's long decline from cancer, no morphine available the final months. Their father's stroke, dead before the ambulance arrived. Irina's husband, killed in Afghanistan 3 years ago. Her daughter now works in a textile factory, earns barely enough to survive. Volkov listens, realizing his sacrifice accomplished nothing for his family. He served the state while they suffered under it. Irina asks about America cautiously, aware the apartment is likely bugged. He tells her sanitized versions. Tall buildings, abundant food, Susan's gentle smile. He doesn't mention the betrayal, the prison, the hollow feeling of 16 years wasted on a lie. She studies his face. You loved her. Not a question. A statement. Volkov doesn't deny it. Irina squeezes his hand, says nothing more. November brings the first snow. Volkov walks Moscow streets, relearning his own city. He visits childhood neighborhoods, finding buildings demolished or transformed. The school he attended is now a parking lot. The park where he played is smaller, trees cut down. He encounters former KGB colleagues occasionally. They acknowledge him with nods, brief words, never invitation or warmth. He's contaminated by capture, potentially compromised. Old friends avoid becoming new liabilities. December 1987, he receives permission to give an interview to Pravda. The journalist is young, earnest, wants to write about heroic illegal who served in America. Volkov disappoints him. I photographed documents and passed them to handlers. There was no heroism, only routine and loneliness. The journalist asks about dedication to communist ideals. Volkov pauses, choosing words carefully. I believed then that I served something greater than myself. Now I'm not certain what I served. The interview never publishes. Too ambiguous, too questioning for Pravda's purposes. 1991 explodes everything. Soviet Union collapses. KGB dissolves, reforms as FSB. The ideology Volkov sacrificed his life for becomes historical curiosity. Statues of Lenin topple. Hammer and sickle flags come down. Volkov watches on his small television, feeling nothing. His pension continues, but inflation makes it worthless. He survives on occasional translation work, English to Russian, ironic employment for someone who spent 16 years pretending to be American. He thinks about Susan often. Late at night, alone in his apartment, he wonders if she married, had children, found happiness. He hopes she did. He hopes she forgot him completely. Both thoughts hurt equally. Sometimes he dreams in English, wakes confused about which country he's in, which identity he's wearing. The boundaries blurred years ago, never fully restored. 2001, a Russian journalist writing a book about Cold War illegals tracks him down. Wants his story, his perspective, his justification. Volkov agrees reluctantly. The journalist asks if he regrets his service. Volkov stares out his window at Moscow's transformed skyline. I regret hurting innocent people, Susan most of all. She deserved better than my lies. The journalist presses, but does he regret serving the KGB? Volkov's answer comes slowly. I served a country that no longer exists, for ideals nobody believes anymore. You tell me if that deserves regret. February 14th, 2003. Dmitry Volkov wakes in his Moscow apartment with crushing chest pain. The radiator clanks uselessly. Heating has been intermittent all winter. He reaches for the phone, manages to dial emergency services, gasps out his address. The ambulance arrives 40 minutes later. Too long. Paramedics find him on the floor, heart already stopped. They attempt resuscitation for protocol, but he's gone. Dead at 64 from massive coronary infarction. His sister Irina identifies the body at the morgue. She's the only family member who maintained contact. She finds his apartment unchanged from 16 years ago. Same sparse furniture, same chipped teacups, same photograph hidden in a drawer showing a beach, torn and carefully taped back together. The funeral occurs on a gray February morning. 7 people attend. Irina and her daughter. 3 former KGB colleagues who remember him from training decades ago. A journalist who interviewed him twice. 1 neighbor who sometimes shared cigarettes on the building steps. No American presence. No acknowledgement from any U.S. agency. The man who spent 16 years in America died without America knowing or caring. They bury him in a common Moscow cemetery. Simple headstone with Cyrillic lettering. Dmitry Alexandrovich Volkov, 1939-2003. No mention of his service, his sacrifice, his Robert Hartman identity. Just dates marking the space between birth and death. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, Patricia Morgan died 2 years earlier, in 2001, age 67, in a Florida retirement community. She never knew her single phone call from JFK Airport led to a major espionage arrest. A journalist contacted her in 1995, told her about Volkov. She gave a brief interview, said she just noticed something wrong, did her duty. She seemed surprised her observation mattered. Susan Crawford never married. She moved to Oregon after leaving New Jersey, worked as a librarian in Portland for 23 years. Colleagues knew her as private, kind, occasionally sad. She refused all interview requests about Volkov, declined to participate in documentaries, never spoke publicly about their relationship. She died in 2016, age 74, from complications of pneumonia. Her sister found journals in her apartment, years of writing about the betrayal, trying to process the lies, attempting to separate genuine moments from performance. One entry from 1989 read, "I still don't know if he loved me. I think not knowing is worse than knowing he didn't." Special Agent David Chen retired from FBI in 1998 after 30 years of service. He called the Volkov case the most significant of his career. Perfect example of Soviet illegal program, deep cover agents living normal lives while stealing secrets. He gave lectures at FBI Training Academy, using Volkov as case study in counterintelligence techniques. Chen died in 2019, age 81. His obituary mentioned the Volkov arrest prominently. FBI headquarters has a photo in their counterintelligence section, Chen and his team the day of Volkov's arrest, looking tired but satisfied. The Volkov case revealed critical vulnerabilities. FBI realized Soviet intelligence had successfully planted unknown numbers of illegals throughout America. How many other Robert Hartmans existed? How many still exist today, living under false identities, passing information to Moscow? The questions never received full answers. Some files remain classified. Some agents were never identified. The illegal program continued after Volkov's arrest, adapted, improved security. Russia still runs similar operations. America does the same in Moscow, Beijing, Tehran. The game continues with different players but identical rules. Technology changes methods. No more microdots or dead drops, everything digital now, encrypted, transmitted instantly. But the human element persists. Someone must still gather information, build relationships, maintain cover stories. If you enjoyed this story, trust me, the next ones will be even more powerful. You're about to hear things no one else is telling. Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss what's coming. If this video moved you, leave a like and drop a comment. And most importantly, share it with someone you care about. See you in the next video.